Good day, everyone. We are together this afternoon to do a Pre-Viva program for one of our candidates from the seminary. I'll just go through the screen. This is Department of Intercultural Studies, Faculty of Theological Studies of the Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary in Ogbomoso. Today is 25th April 2025. We started earlier, 4 o'clock, and this program will end at 5:30 p.m. I think that's GMT. The candidate that is here today to present his paper is Abiodun James Aderele with the matric number on the screen. And this is a public event. Any scholar can join us to listen and rub minds with us. There's not a secret in it. It's a report of progress that one of our candidates has made. So here today, we want to recognize the head of department, Associate Professor Reverend Akinyemi O. Alawode, PhD, of the Department of Intercultural Studies, Faculty of Theological Studies, Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary, in his absentia. He may likely join us at some point, but he's fully aware of this program. He's the host of the program. So we also want to recognize the chair of the program, Dr. Kunle Ogunkolati, PhD, from Oxford Center for Mission Studies, and also an adjunct visiting lecturer to the West African Theological Seminary in Lagos. He will at some point be a, he called me already trying to join. Probably there is technical issue with the Zoom that is using, or probably internet connection, but he will be here. We'll chair our meeting. Then we have the co-chair for the closing remark towards the end of the program is the co-chair, and we'll make some comments. Towards the end of the program is Dr. Adeshola Eyolayinka, PhD, on development studies from African Research University, and also the director of Research and Development at CI Tech University College in Eswatini, around East Africa. We have here the co-supervisor, our brother Reverend Dr. Edward Nana, PhD, at the Department of Intercultural Studies, Faculty of Theological Studies, Nigerian Baptist Theological Seminary, Ogbomoso, and myself, though the supervisor, but today I changed the seat. So I'm becoming the external examiner, which means that Aderele, you better pretend you don't know me, because everything I will say here today is as if I've never met you, and you will see it in the next 20 minutes. So I'm changing the seat from being supervisor to become external examiner to go through the paper and say what an external examiner will say. Somebody who doesn't know you, who has never read your paper, what he will do, what he will say, how he will react, and that the need for you to take your work very seriously. And if the paper is good, why not? The external examiner will rejoice with you in the next 20 minutes and 1 hour, and people will rejoice, and we leave this place, you go for a cup of tea and begin to relax. So whatever that one means. So it's an informal event, so we call it Pre-Viva. At the lower level, people do mock exams, but at the higher level is Pre-Viva. It's a replica of a real Viva, and want to look at that. Also, I also am a PhD and a fellow of Higher Education Academy in the United Kingdom from Oxford Center for Mission Studies, and also I'm an adjunct lecturer and a visiting lecturer to the seminary and to the department. We have here Dr. Okpeyemi Olayenka, who is also joining us. He's in mathematics from Lautech, but though residing in Abuja and working on aviation and pilot, or the sort of things. He has a lot of things on our shoulder, so he's joining us today for any kind of reflection. So without much going around, so with time now, we think the candidate has had time to relax and then he can now take up the podium. So just feel relaxed. These are known faces to me, and possibly known, of course. Dr. Edward Nana is a known person to you. So I want you to relax and bring your work together, bring your mind together, and try and address the questions that will be posed to you. But more than half of the time, you are the one that will manage the time, and you spend much of the time yourself trying to go through your work. And this time around, we are leaving the first item and waiting for Dr. Kunle to join us on point. And the next thing there is to hand over to the examiner for this session. Do you have any question before we continue? Any question? Is my audio clear?
No question, sir. No question, sir.
No question. Okay, now we are starting the examination. And I'm the external examiner who doesn't know you. And I will not know you for the next 2 hours. So I'm acting on the paper presented to me, the one you submitted. You submitted 2 copies. The first copy you submitted, you said that the second one is overriding it. So let us deal with the second one that is more superior in the actual one you want to present today. So welcome to the Pre-Viva meeting. How do you want to be called? How do you want us to call you? Do you want to call you Adirele, Abiodun, or how do you want to be called?
James is preferable.
James. Okay, we'll call you James throughout this program. So we are glad to have you here in our midst today, James. So in the next 2 minutes, as you start your presentation, I want you to introduce yourself. Who is James? Just 2 minutes. Feel relaxed. Just talk to us the way you talk to a friend. Who is James? We can't hear you.
Okay. Can I go ahead, sir?
You respond to each question. Who is James? Who are you? Tell us something about yourself. 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Nana, the network is so bad. I never knew it could be so bad.
I can hear you. We are hearing you very clearly. There's no
network, Airtel, and okay. Because if I switch on the video, you may not hear me well. You may not hear me too well. That was why I switched off the video.
Okay.
Can you see me now?
We can see you. We can hear you. When there's any problem with your network, switch off the video and talk to us. We want to hear your voice.
Okay.
As you do that, I want to welcome Dr. Kunle Ogun Kolati into our meeting. Thank you. We'll call you at some other point as we continue. Welcome. We so much appreciate your time and for joining us today. We just finished the introduction, and the candidate coming forward to tell us something about himself as highlighted in the program. Who is James? You want to introduce himself to us?
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to everyone here, starting from the chief examiner.
No, let's leave that. Let's leave that.
All right.
Who is James?
Okay, sir. Well, I am James Adirele, and by the grace of God, I'm a theologian, and with special interest in Muslim evangelism and Islamic theology. So for a few years now, I've been engaging in communicating the gospel to Muslims and also asking varying questions about what they believe. And apart from that, I've always had this interest in peaceful coexistence and why do people live with different differences that they cannot reconcile because they've read it in a book or maybe somebody taught them to do so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, James. Thank you, James. Thank you very much. We just want to know who you are. Who is James? James is from Southwest Nigeria. He likes theology. He's into mission. That's very good. We'll ask more questions as we continue. Now, you presented a paper or your research to us titled, what's the title of your research? And can you tell us the motivation for your work? What's the motivation for your work, please?
The title of this work is Hermeneutics and Theology of Eschatological Reward in Islam in the Context of Religious Practices in Nigeria. And this is with a special focus on religious violence. And why I've chosen this path to research is because of the bane or the nefarious activities happening in our contemporary society. And this
We can't hear you again.
according to I'm sorry, the network.
Your
the network is so bad here.
Your network is good now. Keep speaking, keep talking.
All right.
Network is good now.
I had to come out. So the motivation for this research is the prolonged religious violence going on in Nigeria. And it has been researched into. Different literatures have tried to point to the fact that the people of certain adherents of a certain religion, which is Islam, are behind this. And it is not just maybe research, news, national news, local news. Different people have confirmed that these people who go into terrorism, who burn houses, who kill people in the name of God are Muslims. So, building on this, I discovered in my reading that people have tried, especially Muslims, have tried to say no, not all Muslims. Some Muslims, researchers, imams on TV, on radio, trying to debunk this report that Islam does not support religious violence. Islam does not support jungle justice. And going forward, as a researcher, I discovered that there are people in other countries that also say, no, this is Islamic. This actual action is Islamic. Then I decided to look at it in the context, or let me say the Nigerian context. And that is what made me to look at this topic. From literature, what they have pointed to is the hermeneutics and theology of eschatological reward. Because a few people that have been arrested, especially terrorists, have been questioned. And these things are in the news. I've cited some references in my work. They try to tell people who are investigating them that they are doing this to gain heaven, because there's a special reward for people who are martyred because of Islam, people who died in propagation of Islam. And that is why they have chosen that path to also die as they plan to conquer the country for Islam. So, and this has been the motivation that made me go into this study about 3 years ago. I started with writing short papers, conference papers, to look at the issue from literature, just based on literature. And going forward for the dissertation, I decided to take it up from there, to reach out to people, to Muslims in different parts of the country, to hear what they have to say about this topic. And that is why I embarked on a phenomenological study to actually look at the phenomenon of religious violence in the context of the hermeneutic and theology of Islam from Muslims in Nigeria. So this study is limited to Nigeria. It's limited to Nigeria and what Muslims have to say and what Christians who are also living in these areas have to say about their experiences.
All right. Thank you very much.
What theology and hermeneutics of Islam say about religious violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much about your motivation, and you've touched the background actually of your study. Now, to take this topic forward, what do you consider to be the available methodologies and the method that you preferred and the one you have used?
Okay, I've employed the descriptive research, which is about explaining a particular concept, but not just explaining this concept, also looking at what other people say. And that is why this descriptive research, I'm applying the qualitative method of analysis, so which is content analysis, to look into the subject matter of religious violence. And that is why in this work, I've tried to look at the different definitions of religious violence. And I've come to a conclusion in looking at this, that religious violence is any conflict, anything done to a fellow human being in the name of religion, something harmful to another human being in the name of religion. And talking about
Thank you very much. Just to clarify that one, you preferred qualitative research method, content analysis, and why do you prefer it over other methods that are available? And kindly link that one with the web of literature, literature available in this area. Which one have you explored? Can you help us with the web?
Okay, sir.
Available.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Why I preferred the qualitative approach is because there is a room for clarification. If it is quantitative approach, it will be just a direct answer. But in qualitative approach, you want to investigate more. So there's an employment of an interview guide. The interview guide is to guide. There are other conversations that could come up, and which actually came up during the process of this research in these 2 years. So I have preferred that because it helps me to link varying literature with telling words, with telling words or disagreeing words or statements. So if it is a quantitative approach, there is no way I can say, okay, this person said this and this person also said the same thing. So because of the web of literature, because of the works of people like Bauer, people like Ayab, people like Lateju, and people like my external examiner here, Dr. Akitayo Olayinka, who also explored peace in the Yoruba setting and also delved towards this session a little bit. So using the same approach to arrive at their conclusion. So I felt it was good to also explore this. If I'm going to contribute to the web of literature that is available, the approach is necessary, either to confirm or to reject whatever results previous research are brought to place. And quantitative approach will not really do this because I will be the one putting the questions from literature. I won't try to hear what contemporaries have to say about this topic, because this matter is a growing matter. It has not ended. It has even increased.
Thank you very much.
During the time of this research.
Thank you very much.
Thank
now
you
we
so
want
much,
to look at the dynamics of your data. You've told us your title and your motivation, your interest, what is going on in the country, Nigeria, with violence going on. We want to begin to be more technical now. So can you provide us with themes, various themes that came out of your data and where each of those themes came from?
Okay, thank you so much. One thing about the data collection of this work is that, and the reporting, is that the report from the northern Nigeria is put together, and the report from southern Nigeria is also put together to look at it differently, because literature tries to prove that the northern Nigeria, whereby this religious violence is common, may have a different perspective towards the subject of religious violence. And that is why in my work, I try to consider on issues of hermeneutics and theology, try to consider the views of the northern Muslims and Christians and the views of southern Muslims and Christians, Muslims majorly. And I try as much as possible.
Just to guide your thoughts, we got what you are saying now, but I want concrete examples. Like Sokoto, results from Sokoto shows this picture. The one from Kaduna showed this, and Kwara showed this, and the one that are very similar and the one that are different. If there are data from such places and other places you've visited.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. During this research, I was able to go to Northern State. I was able to go to Plateau State, Borno State.
No. Give us the data. What are the data all about?
Okay. The data from northern Nigeria generally is considered to be a little bit contradictory to the results from southern Nigeria. In northern Nigeria, the respondents, though friendly, were assertive about what the Quran says about certain issues that come out of religious violence and things around eschatological rewards, things around apostasy, issues around blasphemy. Because from literature, I've been able to gather that these are major issues that cause religious violence. And I want to know, how do they take
let's leave literature. Leave the literature for now. What is the data you have on the field?
Okay, sir. The data shows that northern Muslims have a kind of what people term today as extremist view, what they call the extremism. Many of the people in the north want to follow the Quran to the letter, but with a clause. They try as much as possible, most of them try as much as possible to let me know as a researcher that really what is being said about Islam is true, but not applicable in a country like Nigeria. That is what the data is showing. They are saying, look, when you're talking about apostasy law, Islam subscribes to the execution of an apostate. Islam subscribes to the execution of a blasphemous person. Islam subscribes to the persecution or execution of people who are non-Muslims, especially idol worshippers, because they try to tell me that, look, Christians are different from idol worshippers. So idol worshippers can be persecuted in Islam, but not Christians. Not all of them agree that Christians should be persecuted, but they all agreed that there was persecution of Christians in the past, especially in the time of the Prophet of Islam. And as well, the Prophet of Islam was also friendly with Christians. Though he fought some of them, he was also friendly with some of them. And why he was friendly with some of them was that...
Thank you. Because of time, we want to move to the next one. Reason for choosing the format you used in your dissertation, the format you have, how you title your chapter 2, how you title your chapter 3 and 4 and 5. How did you come about them? Your chapter 2, you call it literature review, I think. Chapter 3, you give it a name. 4, 5, 6. How do you come about those titles?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Because of the nature of the topic, which is majorly on eschatological rewards in connection with religious practices, I first considered, what do the people understand about eschatological rewards? And that was where the report of the research started from. What do they think about eschatological reward before looking at the cause or what is connected with it? And I discovered a lot of things, such as different acts by Muslims drain eschatological rewards, even death. Living and in death have eschatological rewards. Whatever you do, maybe you do something, and mostly whatever you do about Islam will give paradise. So that is that about the chapter 3, looking at the understanding of eschatological rewards and how do they arrive at this, which talks about the hermeneutics. How do they arrive at different interpretations of eschatological rewards? And I discovered that there are texts, there are literatures, and I tried to look into different issues that concerns these hermeneutics. For example, starting from the text, because hermeneutics will start from the text. And the first and the primary text of Islam is the Quran. And as much as possible, they tried to let me know that it is not everyone that can understand the Quran by simply handling it. And in fact, on the field, a few of the respondents tried to let me know that it's not like Christians interpret the Bible. And the authority of interpretation is dwelt in the knowledge of the religious leader, especially the imam.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chapter 4. Can I go to chapter 4? And what it does?
That's all right. I got what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Now, in a short kind of presentation, going from the first chapter to your conclusion, what do you want to consider as your contribution to knowledge?
Okay, sir. Going from 1 to 6, what I consider as my contribution is to let people know how Muslims think in Nigeria as it concerns the issue of religious violence. And one of my contributions under that is that they believe that even when you kill or you are being killed, it may not be termed as religious violence in their own religion. Though we may see it as religious violence, though other people may see it as religious violence, though other adherents of different religions may see it as religious violence. And that is why everyone relating with a Muslim, or even Muslims themselves, because not every Muslim agree, it is my work, not all Muslims agree that Islam supports religious violence. But there is a way they think, there is a way they read the text that leads into religious violence.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. I got what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. And now I will make a few comments, then we'll go on a recess for 5 minutes, then we'll return. Thank you very much for all your efforts. And okay, before we go, can you show us where in your dissertation you have contribution to knowledge as a subtopic or subsection? Is there any part of your dissertation where you wrote conclusion, eschatological discussion, then you now wrote my contribution to knowledge as a title?
Well, thank you so much, sir. There is no section dedicated to the contribution to knowledge, but these are evident in chapter 6, conclusion area, where I've highlighted major issues that I want scholars to take home, and the opening, the gap that is still opening for further research. This is not, there's no special section for that, but within the conclusion, it is stated strongly. My conclusions on this research, which are my contributions to knowledge.
All right. Thank you very much, then. There is no special section which you called your contribution to knowledge in your dissertation. That's what you're saying. So thank you for that. We'll go on a recess so you can relax. Otherwise, if I have any other thing to say, probably before we go on recess. So leave every question I've asked you today. Just be yourself. Is there anything you just want to add to what you have said that probably there are questions you felt like answering that I didn't ask you about your topic? Any general thing you want to talk about regarding your research? 2 minutes. After that, we'll go on the recess.
All right, sir. The area of recommendation, I want to mark this. The issue of religious leadership is held in high esteem in Islam. And that is key for me. And this brought about the recommendation, my recommendation 1, that connects the theology, hermeneutics, and leadership in Islam with the power given to the Imam. And one of the limitations I had in this study was that, which I also mentioned in the work, was that some Muslims failed to answer questions about the Quran or the Hadith that I might interview guys. And they declined respectfully, not disrespectfully, they declined respectfully, which I also included as a response. Either you say something or you do not say something. Not saying something means you are saying something. And I tried to ask, why are you declining critical statements from the Quran?
All right.
According to my interview guide. And
thank you very much.
I don't have the authority.
Thank you very much.
To or make comments on stuff. Only James, the Imam does.
James, thank you very much for your discussion and the presentation of your dissertation today. We'll go on a recess for 5 minutes. At this time, I will pause recording. Then we can socialize and talk and smile and laugh. In 5 minutes, we will return to ask you specific questions and give you feedback about your presentation. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Okay, over to you, Chairman, Dr.
Thank you very much for the unique study on the hermeneutics and theology of eschatological reward in the context of religious practices of the Islamic adherents in Nigeria. We need more of such studies to be able to answer the current question facing us in this respect. I've asked 2 questions. Let me ask them again. How do you ensure that this study and your findings, they are grounded in the participants' own experience and not in your own views and understanding, because before a research begins, we even have the answer before we arrive at the main research question. But you begin to find out that your own understanding of that research has been completely differed from what you find out on the field. That's the essence of, if you know it, there is no need for research. Now, what you have done, how are they grounded as a phenomenological research in the experiences of the participants? That's my first question. Then second, how different, you have to point it out to us, and how dissimilar from other pool of theses on religious violence.
All right, thank you very much. Do you want to respond to that before the chairman leaves?
Okay, sir.
Or you want to
Can
note
I
it?
go ahead, sir?
Go ahead. Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. The work is a true reflection of the participants' experiences. And that is why in this work, I'm sorry, a call is just coming in. I couldn't connect with my laptop, so I used my phone. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we're hearing you. We're listening.
All right. So that is why 3 states in the Southwest, in the South, and 4 states in the North. And why do we have 4 states in the North? Because it's the religious violence is brewing with different shades till the contemporary time. And that is why in this work, I try to also reflect on where this religious differences started from in the time of Uthman Danfodio. And I try to trace the history of what happened as at then in 1802, when these issues started brewing before Nigeria came to place in the Hausa country, and how he invaded the whole place. But with the question you have asked, it is a true reflection. You have every footnote of every participant's contribution to this work. And I've tried as much as possible. Let me just go to the issue of, what's the second question, sir? I think I've answered the first. I'm really sorry.
Number one, I didn't read most of your, I've not read fully some of your analysis. There is a difference between hearing the voices of research participants and also your own underpinning, your own knowledge, which underpins the research. You might often, in your review, you are speaking for the people. We are not hearing their own voices in the research, and therefore you are holding something which is your own pre-understanding of what it's all about. That's the first question. And then you don't speak, you do not speak for the people. We are hearing frequently and flowingly the voices of the participants. That's very key. And that's what brings Dr. Olayinka telling you about chapter 4 of the critical part of the analysis, and which gives you different shades of it. That's very important. What has he got? That's what I'm trying to talk about. Your chapter 4 is very key, because that is the real research, not necessarily telling us more stories of Uthman Danfodio, this, etc. Then again, the second is that obviously you have had a lot and you have read a lot. Now, how different, you want to tell us, and how dissimilar, because some researches are similar, that you can easily look at them and say, this is the work of so and so. But how can you point out within your own context how different and how unique this thesis is? Before
okay, sir. Thank you so Thank you so much, sir. This has been done on different section of what was reviewed on the field. For example, in my 4.1, it was reviewed on the field about vulnerability. that the people who usually start the issue of religious violence are the youth, and they are also affected by their action. And with that, I try to look at this view from the field, considering it in line with what Christopher P. Salas Wright said about the youth being engaged in it. I'm really sorry, sir. A call is just coming in and disturbing.
Just go ahead.
So I think that what Bayer and Wright said about youth being involved, and what they have said is that about 60 empirical studies, they had to analyze some studies, and this is what they have to say about youth involvement in religious violence.
Okay. And can I say
In
something?
a meta-analysis of 60 empirical studies published on religiosity and crime, starting from 1969.
James.
Sir?
James, that's okay. What Dr. I want to come in a bit. What Dr. Kunle is saying is that in the presentation of your chapters, let us see clearly what the people have said. And then let us see where you are coming in. We want to read the voices and want to read your own voices. So keep that in mind, because you are citing other people several years ago again. We are talking of 2024, 2025. You started some other scholars. So this just to, we'll go over this one. It's about structure of your work. Without reading the content, when I read the table of, even if I read the table of contents, I should be able to see data from Kaduna, the ideas from Kaduna, the ideas from Ilorin, the ideas from here, how similar the ideas are about apostasy, about violence, about interpretation of some verses of the Quran. Do they interpret it similarly or differently? It's science. You can create a table of findings, so that apostasy, what is the trend like? Interpretation of a particular verse of the Quran, what is the trend like? And Friday violence in some Fridays, in some places, no violence on Fridays, some places, list them for us. So along with your questions. So if you're able to see the picture of that, we'll be able to see what contributions are coming from the field, different from your own voice. You are saying it, but you want to see it on paper. Although Dr. Kula has not read your work because it's not given to him, but I fully agree with him because I didn't see the picture very clearly.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman.
Thank you, everybody. Dr. Olayinka, I'll be exiting now because of the next program. If you could send the document to me, I will be able to costly look at them and also give my own feedback to help and strengthen the for grand thesis. Thank
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, my colleague.
Chairman.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes, Dr. Adeshola wants to say something now.
Yes, I am trying to re-emphasize what Dr. Kunle was trying to pass across. What he is saying is that, what is the difference between what you are presenting and what a reporter, maybe somebody just went out and collect reports. This is academics. This is PhD. It's different from a newscaster that just walk around, oh, in 2024, something happened. No, we want pattern. Since you are using qualitative, which pattern? Okay, you mentioned, which is very good, you mentioned 4 states in the north. Are they your target population or your sample size?
My sample size.
The whole 4 states in the north as a sample size for qualitative analysis.
No, sir. Sir, I employed purposive sampling technique to look at five religious leaders in different categories: religious leader, youth, and scholar. In each of these states, they are my major targets. So I use purposive sampling technique to choose the respondents from each state, not the whole state, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So what we are now saying is this: in the area of your literature review, the literature review must bring out the gap in knowledge. What is your problem? The problem you are trying to solve or you are trying to bring out. The literature review came up with your literature review, you came up with gap or gaps. What are those gaps? Because if you are able to come up with this, is not something that is very complex, just to follow the structure. So being in my chapter 2, the literature review, having gone through this that happened globally, I discovered also that it happened in Africa and also it happened in Nigeria. Therefore, this person has done something like this, and this person also did something different. But because there is another area that I'm trying to research, which particular area, and how do you come about that area that you are studying? It is your literature review that will lead us, that will guide us. Okay, this person is not a newscaster. He's not just looking for information. No. He has read wide. He discovered that some people did A, another people did B, but there is an area which is C, and that is why he is dwelling on that C. And having dwelt on that C, he is now coming up with, as the Dr. Kunle, the chairman, said, that you are not, before you started, you have something in mind, but after your research, you must have discovered something new, apart from what anybody on the street could say.
Yeah.
If there is nothing strange, then it will have to be repeated. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So this one takes us back to the literature review. So I want to thank you very much for that observation and notice in your work. Before I read the notes that I have here, I don't know if Dr. Edward wants to speak at this point or I should continue.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks to everyone for joining the call this evening, and also well done to Pastor James for the presentation. I don't know if I'm audible.
Yeah. There is a little echo, but we are hearing you.
Okay, sir. Yes, I think I agree with everything everyone have raised about the work. First, about coming out clearly to state how his experience how this work has actually reflected in his experience. How is he well grounded in the researcher's experience? I mean, and then how also the work is different from other hermeneutical work on eschatology in Islam. And these are actually my own points, which I was want to draw out here. Now is in this chapter 3, when he was talking about the hermeneutics, eschatology and hermeneutics of Islam. I actually want to come out clear and open. What do Muslims say about their concept of eschatology? What is the Quran saying about the concept of eschatology? What are Muslims' interpretation of these highlighted verses about what they are saying, and then what is your own perspective? Because first you must first tell us what the Quran is saying, what Muslims think the Quran is saying, without interfering as a Christian, because our own hermeneutics about their verse will be different. But what are they saying? What are the hermeneutical views of these Quranic verses? And then what is your own interpretation of this? Because I want to believe that hermeneutics across religions are the same. It follows almost same principles. So perspective to issues and how to interpret them might differ. But however, it's very important for us to know what the Quran is saying, like you've highlighted in part of the work. It should be more coordinated and presented logically, following that order of the Quran, Islamic interpretation of those verses, and then maybe a Christian or a researcher's perspective of those verses. That will actually help to even now build on the assessment of what you also gotten from the field, as it's also built on the chapter 4 and chapter 5. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edward, for the guidance provided before today and also now. Pastor James, there are certain things that I want to go through, which everything we've said is very important, but like summarizing the work. The first one, let me continue from where Dr. Edward just stopped. When the title of your work is Hermeneutics and Theology of Eschatological Reward in Islam in the context of religious practices in Nigeria, one would expect the introduction to start from there, which will include, of course, motivation, the reason for going this direction, and then a kind of explanation or definition of what hermeneutics and theology are all about. Assuming your reader doesn't know anything about your topic, because hermeneutics technically is not English, but eventually became English word. So eschatology is not an English word, but became an English word later. Going through a kind of x-ray of your work now, you give us the meaning of eschatos on page 77 of your work. Now, it should come up very, very early in the work, not to read to page 77 before I would know the meaning of eschatos, to give me the real meaning of eschatology and eschatological reward. So the first point I'm pointing out is structure. Very, very important. You need to work on structure. Still continuing with that contribution on hermeneutics. While reading a work like this, if it were to be a book, I would like to see eschatology in Islam, different interpretations, or whether they are the same or diverse, presented by various scholars and also journal articles or books, which will lead me to the idea that, okay, yeah, many people really believe, or many Muslim believes in the eschatology that relates to the word, and that could be a possible reason why some go into violence, because the title is very clear that you are studying it. It has to do with reward, and it sometimes or possibly leads to conflict, and mostly in Nigeria. So I need that understanding at the beginning of the work. If it's not in the introduction, I want to see it in the literature review. Literature review should give me clear idea of what the work is all about. And to continue with where Dr. Adeshola stopped, I think I mentioned it before, literature review should give us the understanding of what is going on and where you want to be. So, as a recap of the work, when I read your work, I have the following points that I've raised, which I can go through very quickly in case Dr. Edward has some other contribution to make. I raised a question whether you closely read the reports from your proposal defense and you utilized the suggestions provided. If you did, then I hope it helped you in your presentation or in the continuation of your study. On the 5th of November last year, the report was sent to you after the defense of your proposal. And certain points were raised. To refine the thesis statement to narrow focus within the broad topic to exactly what you are working on. And the other one is to explore different interpretations of Islamic text in various regions of Nigeria during field research. Also was mentioned during the defense. The interviews to interview imams and clerics in different parts of Nigeria, you did that very clearly. Investigate links between Islamic eschatology and religious violence. So in this work, have you been able to say clearly that the interpretation given is the cause of religious violence, to make it very straight, or it's not, or it is in some places, it is not in some places? We need clear answer to questions like this. And to examine implications or the implications of study of Christian communities, the implication for Christian communities and peaceful coexistence in Nigeria. So several issues were raised during your defense, which I feel probably you may go over them again just to help you in polishing your final draft of your work. So now to be more direct, I have the following. In a few words, you may need to revisit pages 113 and 114 on conflict theory. You presented conflict theory as something that is necessary to be in your work, but it doesn't blend. I will advise you to read it again and let it blend with your work, not just to let it be there because it is required. Let it blend to flow with your work. And also your theoretical framework, let it blend with your work. Now, as if we knew what we'll be talking about, this one has been written down before today. Your literature review is unfocused. You have used about 1/3 of your space to develop your review of literature. The review ought to discuss the current trend around your topic and identify the gap you want to explore in line with your topic, which you have not shown in this paper. You need to rework your literature review to capture all this with only relevant subtitles and resubmit in 2 weeks. You can redo. He has dropped. Anyway, Dr. Edward is here. Please, are you still here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. Now, as if Shola knew what was written here. So the draft literature review doesn't give us gap at the moment. Okay, it's back. So the literature review doesn't give us gap at the moment. You can read it. You see that it's not giving you any gap. And let it be thematic. Let us know who two people who are saying this, and what they are saying is different from what these other people are saying, and similar to what this one are saying, and the issue of apostasy is off. You mentioned crusade. Okay, let crusade be discussed fully. What are Christian scholars saying about crusade? What are Muslims saying about crusade? And what is your view about crusade? If you want to give any view, if you don't want to give any view, don't give any view. But let us know what's going on about crusade. Is crusade the cause of violence in Nigeria? Now leave it open if there is no conclusion. So let there be themes in the literature review, and let them address a particular issue before you finish that paragraph or those two paragraphs. Eventually, by the time you'll be finishing all your literature review, you will see what is lacking that you want to dwell in. There's no way you not find something you want to dwell in, even if it is comparing various interpretations in different parts of Nigeria, in those states that you've identified. Eventually, you end your literature review by saying, having gone through all this, there is no specific literature that clearly provide a good data on the reason for violence in some part of Nigeria, especially with the coming off or with the increase in kidnapping in Nigeria. I doubt if there's anything like that. So Utmana Fudo did not talk about kidnapping in 2024. So you can easily get a gap. So give a good literature of what has been happening with themes in different parts of Nigeria, including Boko Haram you mentioned in passing. But let each section be good paragraphs. Each paragraph should explain what you are talking about. So only 1 or 2 paragraphs on crusade alone. Good literature. Boko Haram, let it be well discussed with 10, 15 articles on Boko Haram. Let us see what they are saying. Then you end your own by saying there's no comparison on the cause of violence, especially the kind of interpretation given by the Quran. Then let it be your focus, which will go in line with your topic. Now, your chapter 3 lacks coherence and does not fit into a good research structure. So the purpose of your chapter 3 is not clear. Is it a presentation of data or discussion of findings? Now, when you complete your literature, which is great, assuming your literature review is complete now, I feel you can do that in 2 weeks. Now, we now see the gap that you want to examine various parts of Nigeria, what is going on. You have the data already. So that data that you have, I want you to make it graphics, make a form of graphics for us. Give us the towns, give us different topics, one side, whether longitudinal or across cross section, list different towns and list different topics, and in between, in Plateau State, the interpretation is like this, and apostasy is like this, and something else is like this. Then look through, see how similar the interpretation in each groups. And in a particular place where you don't have any data to explain apostasy, leave it vacant. So that you'll be able to give us the graphics as you did for children who are vulnerable in your real paper. So why can't you do the same thing for others? So that we'll be able to see 3 subtitles you want to develop as different chapters, 4, 5, 6. So with that, it becomes very graphic and people will be able to see what you have done. So your current chapter 3, you need to check it again. Let us have data you have from the field. Let it be visible. At some point after this presentation, I can show you some tables that some people have done. I can actually show you a table I did on a different topic entirely. How you have different authors on one side, different issues they address on another side, and see what each of them say, and then see the similarity and differences. So that will be very good in your appendix. Even if you don't show it in the body of your work, make a reference to your appendix that with the table you have shown on your data, various interviews, what each person is saying, it will help you. And you also use Google Form. So why can't you transfer some of the data you have in your Google Form into table, so that pictorially we'll be able to see what is happening in different regions. If the interviews are similar, show us. and then turn it into words, into qualitative study. Let it be in picture form, in table form, in a tabular form, then transfer the information into chapters, then write about those chapters. There are some information you have in your current literature review that will eventually move into chapter 4, 5, and 6 to develop it for you. But definitely, you need to rework chapter 2 literature review, move more information from there into the rest part of the work. So each chapter 3 lacks coherence at the moment. So let us have your findings, possibly in chapter 3, and then if you want to discuss it there, fine. If not, you discuss your findings in other chapters 4, 5, and 6. Now, if it is discussion of findings, you have not given us the findings you are discussing. Chapter 3 is not well organized, okay? You need to separate your findings from discussion of findings. That relates to what Dr. Kunle was saying, that is it the data or your own premeditated information? So the two have to be separated. Your findings should follow either topical style or different site findings. So it could be topical, apostasy, murder, violence, Friday violence. It could be according to sites, Kwara State, Oyo State, Ogun State. But going by themes may be better, so that you'll be able to extract theme from your table and turn it into chapter. Then the following chapters will select, then the following chapters will be selected from, sorry, what is there? So you allow your following chapters 4, 5, and 6 to select from the themes. So your themes will now determine what the title of your chapter 4, 5, and 6 will be. You cannot get any chapter 4, 5, and 6 from anywhere. It has to be from the themes that are coming up from your data, because that will justify the reason why you want to go for such chapters. We are not outrightly saying that you should destroy the title in your chapter 4, the current chapter 5 title, you should remove it. That is not the point. The point is that title you have in 4 and 5 now, you have to trace it back to a theme that clearly came out of your data. I want to see that data so that we will know where you pick it from. Then retain chapter 5 if it is from your data. Otherwise, let the data speak. And from the data, give us a theme you are developing in 5 and in 6. All right. So then, the chapters will, the themes will be, I will correct this area. Let me amend this one. I will amend this one. So develop it as distinct chapters where you will display your contribution to knowledge. On reading your work presently, I could see the vulnerability of children came out clearly in your data, but I cannot see that data. I only see the pie chart. So let me see where that pie chart came from, and let vulnerability of children be a good chapter that everybody would like to read. Anywhere in Nigeria would like to read it. There's a new researcher coming up and saying children are more vulnerable during religious violence in Nigeria, even in 2025. If you're able to quote everybody, you can. Great scholars, World Health Organization, United Nations, and quote people from Africa too, and quote Boko Haram and IDP camp. So it will be a great chapter in your work, but it has to be scientific. We want to know where the data came from. So how does your chapter 4 relate to the existing literature? So that's another thing. So with other chapters you are developing in 4, 5, and 6, that people in Ilorin, in Kaduna, in Ogbomoso, they are arguing that this is the interpretation of Quran that they are following. Then how does it relate to previous scholars' work? So give us literature to buttress the point, because chapter 4, 5, and 6 cannot just be data only. As you develop the themes, you cite people. You cannot cite people, cite Olayinka, cite Lateju or Olapade, what they are saying, similar to what you found, or different from what you found. It doesn't matter. So it's what you find that you show us. Cite other scholar that agree with it, or citing scholar that disagree with what you got from your field, which are presented to us in chapter 5, 6, and 7. Where did you present your findings in a thematic format? So I mentioned that already. So let us get presentation of findings or data. The list of your interviewees should henceforth have the initials of their names and not their full name. In your current appendix, you put people's names there. Unless it is anonymized, let us know that it is anonymized names and give us reason. Cite a particular research method book that says that anonymized people's names, then say all these names are anonymized. But if they are real name, don't ever let it be in your appendix. Remove them or make them to be anonymized. AA, AB, AC in Kotangora, just let it be that way. So it cannot be published with real name. Because you mentioned about ethics of research already, that you have to follow the ethics of research. So the name should not be there because they could be persecuted. Then remove your own date of birth also from your appendix. You can put age if seminary wants it, but don't put your date of birth on your appendix. Do you need work experience and publications in the appendix? Probably Dr. Edo will help us about this. Do you need to put your real CV in your appendix of your doctoral work? So over to Dr. Edo to help us about that at some point. Then can you explain copying and pasting in your work? I cited some pages here, pages 134, 35, 36, 37, 42, 253, 254. There are something like copying and pasting because the real page was not white, it's no longer white. From your, except those pages that are cited here, your background is white, but go to those pages, the background are like gray, it's like copying something
Yes,
and
sir.
pasting it directly.
Yes, sir.
So you need to
Yes,
explain that one to us at some point where you got them and why you did that. Then discuss the one, what I like most about your work is that picture. Children are more vulnerable. What that be the percentage? That is a great contribution to knowledge, which you didn't find except until when we read it. So if that can be a chapter in your work, your external examiner will like it. But you have to prove it. You didn't see that at the corner of your house, just the children are vulnerable. You want to see from the data that it actually came from your data. Then develop it. Everybody in the world will like your work as coming out distinctly. So do you have graphic evidence of Christian vulnerability? You said Christians are also vulnerable and youth are vulnerable. Let's assume the youth, you mean are teenagers, they're part of the children, they're vulnerable, that's fine. But do you have any graphic representation that Christians are vulnerable? I want to see it. The graphic, whether bar chart or pie chart, and how to see how it came out from your data. Then we accept that can be another chapter in your work. If you are able to provide that evidence in graphic form, that can be another chapter. Can be your children, can be your chapter 5 eventually. This one Christian can be your chapter 5 if you want. But you actually need another chapter on violence, the interpretation of Quran and violence. We need a chapter on that. If your title is really speaking to us that the hermeneutics of eschatology of reward is the cause of violence in some context, then we need a chapter on it. Let us hear what people are saying about that from the data. So that can actually be your chapter 4 eventually. Where children vulnerability will be chapter 5, Christian mission also vulnerable could be chapter 5, if it can emerge from your data. So that's what I want to say about that. Inconsistent footnotes. Your footnotes are not consistent. You see 501, 502, then 2004, then 7 million and something, and go back to 500 and something. So you need to rework your footnotes. So I'm doing this as external examiner who doesn't know you, and I don't want to know you until the next 3 hours. So your footnotes are inconsistent. You have to work on it. Most of what you have in chapter 5 sounds like data from your fieldwork. So what you have in chapter 5 is like you are just putting stories, events from fieldwork. It's not speaking as a chapter. So now, if you're following this new format, that the title of your chapter will be from your data, and then you begin to discuss that title and bring in voices from your data and bring scholars from all over the world agreeing or disagreeing with your data to form a good chapter, then it's going to come out very nicely. Then you have many recommendations in your conclusion, but no contribution to knowledge. Now, when I asked you what contribution do you have to knowledge, do you have any section for it? I knew what I was talking about because I read it already, that there's no section called contribution to knowledge. So this has been spotted out. So why do you need all the lists of contribution or all the list of recommendations? If you have so much recommendations, why can't you embed them in your real work, embed them in your chapters? If you want Christian to do something for missions, why can't you discuss it in your work? If there's any section to discuss it, you want to push it out for other people to research in the future. So if you can get 10 or 20 or 15 recommendations, so I would say, why can't you research them? Do it yourself. Don't tell people to do 15 recommendations when you are writing a good research for years. So you do it for us. Don't ask other people to do it for you. So you may think of some of your recommendations if they can go back to the body of your work and discuss it thoroughly and put it at the end of those chapters. You can make it in form of questions. You wonder what is going on, and you wonder why there are not more effort to make this happen, rather than make it to come out in your conclusion as a recommendation. Discussing in your work and ask questions on the reason why people are not acting on it. So you can just rework it to be something that should be done within your work, not something that should be done in your conclusion. So just provide very few recommendations. Discuss the rest in your work. Other general points to note. You put, these are just general. You put AS dot, can be association, can be associate. So associate professor, make it full, associate professor. If others use ASS dot, you don't use it. Make it full, associate professor. Then you have some long sentences which you need to work on. Then some of your work have to be converted to academic English, most general English. And then bring your stories together in one place and engage in academic discourse. I mentioned that you mentioned crusade somewhere, another page you mentioned crusade, another few chapters that you mentioned crusade. Bring all of them together as a block of discussion, thorough discussion, so that when we leave those 2 paragraphs or 6 paragraphs, we know we are going to another issue entirely and see academic debate on that also until we get to the end of your work. So what are your Google Forms doing? Where are they? We couldn't find your Google Form templates or your findings from it in a graphic form. So you need to transfer the information to a table. Let us see how your Google Form looks like with various findings that you have. Where is your data presentation? I've mentioned that, and themes that emerged from your data. You depend so much on foreign scholars, even about Boko Haram. So I was expecting you to cite 20 books, 20 journal articles on Boko Haram. You just mentioned just a few, and you left. And the rest were just several things, several scholars outside. It's not wrong to mention several scholars from outside, but when you are dealing with issues like this, anything that relates to local issue, try and get us materials from there. And when you cite scholars from outside, which is great, you have to, but make sure that those scholars are really contributing to your debates. It's like in your literature review, you went into defining, giving a definition of religion, kept asking and kept citing people with definition of religion. So I'm wondering whether definition of religion is a major issue in your literature review of this kind of thing. If it is, make it just 1 paragraph. Don't use 5 pages on discussing what is religion in your literature review. So, and then All right. Did you struggle to find books and journal articles on Boko Haram? I mentioned that even before I got here. Was there any struggle for you to get good journals? You may check the library, check online, check JSTOR to get good journal articles you may need for your work. Why do you depend on encyclopedia to give you definition of theology? What is theology? You don't need encyclopedia for that. There are several books and journal articles in the seminary that can provide you with definition of theology and theological discussions. So, which implies that when you're talking of eschatological discourse and theology, what is theology? Make it simple. One paragraph or two sentences, okay, with three authors. Then, based on that idea, what's eschatology? Not on page 77. It's all about this. Now, I want to progress to examine things about violence in Nigeria and the various interpretations given, if they are the cause of violence in Nigeria. You may need to transfer some writings in your literature review to support your discussion and your findings in other chapters. It's not that you are destroying of your work as you have it, but you need to move some to a different area entirely so that your literature review will become smaller in size, or rework it, or read more stuffs to be able to butcher different themes. Even literature review should have themes. Not that you're going to give title literature review 212 to 23. You don't necessarily need that. But the people reading your work, they will know that they are reading this theme and they are going to a different paragraph and giving you another theme, and they are just flowing. Even if you want to talk about Nigeria, make it very simple and easy. Or even Nigeria is a very great place and 1914, whatever. After that paragraph, we move to another idea until you can end your literature review. So your current literature review sounds like notes, not a standard review. So that's what I've got for you about on that. So in short, if I were to be the one writing this, I will provide data templates to be able to see the summary of what I got from the field at a glance. And I see the themes that came out clearly, and the themes that came out clearly will form my subsequent chapters. And I'll bring in voices from my field into that chapter, and I will get academic support for it or against it. And the conclusion of that chapter, I'll make it clear that currently in 2025, Nigeria's situation, this is the interpretation of eschatology, and it's influencing people who go to violence, or it's not influencing people who go to violence, or in some places it influences people who go to violence in some places. It doesn't influence people who go to violence in some places. That's what I expect at the end of that chapter. And the other title that emerged, even not in your topic, but emerged from the field, discuss it for us. True research must be able to present to us what you're looking for, and number two, what you didn't look for but you found on the field. So nobody will crucify you for discussing what you were not looking for but you found it on the field. That is a sign of true research. But if you are looking for something, it's the exact thing you found on the field, you didn't find any other thing, we'll have to query you. That probably are just writing down what you dream about, not what you found on the field. So a good research must give you something similar to what you are looking for, and you find something you are not looking for and discuss it. I was not looking for this, but you find it that children are more vulnerable during violence in Nigeria. So there's no way you complete this research without giving us a chapter on whether eschatological the thoughts and interpretation of eschatological reward is a cause of violence or is not. Or in some places it is, in some places it is not. There is a need for a chapter on that. The other thing you were not looking for, you find on the field, we want to see as another chapter in this work. And definitely, even before then, your literature review should be clear and should be led in order, which will lead you to present your findings, and your findings show 3 points you want to discuss. And one of the first points should be whether eschatological discourse is a cause of violence. Is it not? Can be a chapter. And then other things you were not looking for, which you found on the field, you can find another chapter. Then in your conclusion, you see that you have so many things you contributed to knowledge. There's no way you have 3 good chapters from your field, and you not see 4 lines that explain what you have contributed to knowledge in a very concrete form in 1 paragraph in your contribution, in your conclusion. And finally, in your conclusion, you should be able to give us that even though this is your contribution to knowledge, your contribution to knowledge in 2025 is similar to what somebody said sometimes ago. Let us know the name. It's different from what somebody said sometimes ago. And the reason why yours is unique is that somebody said something similar to that, only wrote it in, let's say, Japan. But your own contribution to knowledge is saying something similar, but in Nigerian context. And so even your contribution to knowledge should have a link with others globally. But in case if your contribution to knowledge has no replica, no example anywhere in the world, tell us. But definitely I know the one I cited in your work, which says that children are more vulnerable during violence in Nigeria. You can find people, even what that organization will say children are vulnerable. There are people in IDP camp, they spend millions of naira or pound on them. You can cite them. That your research shows that children are more vulnerable in northern Nigeria during violence. And this is buttressed by United Nations and World Organization that spends so million on IDP camp. So what United Nations is saying is the amount they spent on IDP camp, and what you are saying is that the children that are vulnerable are in IDP camp. That's the link. So you are contributing to knowledge that children are more vulnerable. United Nations and World Organization is saying that they're spending money on children. So there's a link between your findings and what they are doing, but your own contribution is different in that they are very vulnerable. That's what you're finding. Yeah, if somebody said children are vulnerable on the newspaper, you confirm it, that your findings in 2025 have shown that truly they are vulnerable from the data that are available to you. So that is how your conclusion will likely look. So with that, if you're able to do all these corrections, then your work can go for internal defense, and after that, it can go for external examiner anywhere in the world, and the work we go through. With that, I want to ask if Dr. Edward wants to make a comment before I stop recording. Then after that, we want to hear James for any final comment.
Okay, sir. Nothing much. So I will not repeat most of the things that have been said. Thank you, sir, for taking time to read through your work. I will just encourage Pastor James to find time. I think beyond linking the work with what some people have also said, there is a need for him to be able to tie the work together. Let us see the flow between connecting chapter 2 and 3, flow connecting 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6, so that there will not be a disconnect. They are not just chapters standing independently, they're actually chapters collaborating one another. Yes, the seminar has given a guide. Try to follow the guide. Your 1 is the background, introducing us to the entire work. The 2 is review of related literatures, what people have said around or subjects around the work. If you follow that guide, I help you while summarizing or cutting down chapter 2. There are so many things there that really we don't really need them in this work, like telling us what theology is, what religion is, and the rest. Those things can be cut off. They are not, yes, they are within that realm of study, but it's not, those are not the main issue this work is out to examine. So like that, so the progression you actually need and make it a very good read for anybody that picks it up to read later. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Dr. Edward, for this contribution. Is there any final word from James? After that, I will stop recording and we have another
I think
final
Dr.
recess.
I think Dr. Adeshola also wants to say something.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Adeshola.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah. The comments made so far are in order, and our advice actually he has done great job, but there is need for amendment from chapter 1 to the last chapter has been commented. So just follow all these things that are highlighted. There's no way you can have only 2 research questions and you will have 10 different recommendations. That means something is not okay. So from the introduction, your research approach, research philosophy, we give back to the approach, we give back to the methodology, we give back to the, like that. And it will flow from the introduction to the review. And the topic is a function, and it came out of your review, which is the real work that you are, that is your work, and that is your problem that you are trying to solve or bring out or work on. And that will be the major contribution to the body of knowledge, which is the main thing that we are talking about at that level, PhD, which is different from just anybody. Anybody can just write even 1,000 pages of book or letters and all those things. But when it comes to academics, there are these things that we just have to follow, and only that you just need to realign and to come up with and to implement all these recommendations. Having said that, I want to appreciate the contributions from the panel and all the members so far. They are very insightful, and those questions also and the criticism are in right order. So this engagement also it's a kind of collaborative spirit, and it's a spirit of scholarship. So, and the aim is just to make sure that we are not too far from the benchmark, and that I want to encourage the candidate that just need to buckle up, do the needful, work on all these feedback. They are very relevant. And so that you will be able to stand tall and defend it anywhere. It's your work. You should be able to defend it anywhere. Thank you all once again. I wish the candidates to continue in this spirit and be more encouraged to complete the academic journey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So that's fine. I want to end the recording for final catch up.